And welcome to the Comic Corner. My name is Damon. He is AF, buddy. How you doing?
Dude, I'm doing good. I'm doing fantastic. I got to see you in person last week, spent a couple of days together. We
Yes.
had a great time. So yeah, now it's just adapting back to life here in South Africa again. How are you?
Ooh. I am recovering from some con crud, so if it sound a little stuffed, that's why. We don't have a lot of time, so we're gonna run through today's episode pretty quick. What we got first? Absolute Wonder Woman. Is it an absolute hit? Maybe. We'll talk about it. A New Dawn for Nightwing. Yes, I did like a quick little 2.5 minute review last week. It is not our usual content. I want to get something out because we were at New York Comic Con and we got some big news out of New York Comic Con. But first, like you mentioned, we have the news. We have the news. And we have three big things that were announced. I narrowed it down to three big things. Ultimate Wolverine was announced. We also got the brand new event, One World, Under Doom, The Rise of Superior Doom. And then on the DC side, Absolute Martian Manhunter. Out of all of these three, what are you most excited for?
I think I'm excited for the Doom book. Um,
Really?
I think this event is has the potential to be really good. Um, but yeah, it's just high level details right now, and I can't wait to see. Like I'm normally a person that picks up the first issue and then decides if I want to carry on afterwards. So yeah, I'm definitely going to pick up the first issue for this one. But yeah, I'm curious. I'm quite intrigued by it.
Yeah, the only thing I'll push back on this, and it's just something that was announced when it was announced, that was like, oh, this is like what happens if Doom took over the world. I'm like, I've seen this before. I've seen this a lot of times. But this is at least a Doom who is also Sorcerer Supreme. That was like the whole point
Yeah,
of this Doom. What does he do while he's Sorcerer Supreme? I find that interesting. While I am very excited for the Absolute Martian Manhunter, I find that very interesting. This Ultimate Wolverine is going to be very cool because this has elements. They also didn't fully confirm that this is Logan. They kind of kept that to themselves. They're like, I don't know, is this Logan? Is this not Logan? What we can say is that this is essentially what if Wolverine was also Winter Soldier? Like
mhm.
he's being controlled by all the Ultimate Universes, like the Russian side of it all, which is very interesting. And that I'm very excited for. He's going to make his first official appearance in Ultimate Universe 1 year in, coming out soon. So
Dude, this
definitely.
Wolverine looks yoked. Like
Oh, he's
looks
very
him.
yoked. He's very yoked. Yeah, we still don't know exactly who he is. So I'm still thinking it's Logan, but who knows? Maybe it's Wade Wilson as Wolverine, maybe. And I know there's a variant cover out there that very much looks like Logan. I brought this up too, but that's a variant cover. It's not the
Yeah,
interiors, we'll see. But who knows? Maybe it's still Bucky. Who knows? Who knows what's going on with this version, because anything is possible in these alternate realities, including this book right here that we're going to talk about. Absolute Wonder Woman. Gonna do a quick plug. If you haven't listened to it already or haven't watched it already, I interviewed Kelly Thompson. I was one of the first people to interview Kelly about this book. She was so kind to come on and we chatted all about it. So go check that out. But AF, what did you think of this book?
I enjoyed it. It was an absolute win.
Ah, ah.
And yeah, I think one of the things that stood out to me with this book is the theme of a mother's love.
Mm.
And I mean, like that from the first page up until the very last, Cersei, just like everything that she did is for Diana. And I don't know if we are going to get into spoilers about this or not,
I would
if we have
say
the time to do it.
not for this
Yeah.
first one. I want
Yeah.
people to really read this.
Yeah. So yeah, like motherly love and just Diana knowing who she is deep down on the inside. That's all that I'm going to say. I enjoyed those two aspects, and yeah, I'm interested. I'm interested and curious to see where they take the story. And yeah, it was a dub for me.
Of course, written by Kelly Thompson, art from Hayden Sherman, colors Jordy Belair. I adored this first issue. I know Fat Thor, he's not able to be here right now, but Fat Thor said he actually may have liked this first issue more than Absolute Batman. That's how much he really
Hmm.
loved this issue. And I don't know. I like it. That's like competing two very tough teams against each other, right? Like that's a
Yeah,
challenge. I don't know if I'd put them head to head like that because I really liked it. I like the art style on here. I love the way that Diana looks. I love the tattoos that she has, and of
yeah,
course the giant magical Buster sword with this dark skeleton Pegasus. This is just cool. And this is also officially the first hero. Hayden talked about this at the DC panel, who's like kind of like out there in this absolute universe as like a hero, open that everyone knows
yeah,
and everyone can see. So that aspect as a whole, as well, is very, very interesting. What I will say before we move on to our other books, I think one of the fascinating things about this absolute universe is it's going to show how adversity makes you better. And I think that's almost going to be Darkseid's whole point when
yeah,
eventually these two worlds collide. That without this adversity, you are not what you are without me, right?
yeah,
That's what I feel like he's going to be getting at with all of this. Like this version of Wonder Woman is badass. This version of Bruce, arguably better than Earth Zero Bruce
yeah,
in almost every way. We haven't seen Superman yet, but that's a Superman who's carrying the weight of his people on his shoulders in ways we've never seen that Clark is done. Closer to Kara, honestly, than Clark, the weight that he's carrying on his shoulders. I think this issue is great. We are 2 for 2 with Absolute books, just
yep,
kicking off, flying from the start. I saw a quick little teaser at New York Comic Con for Absolute Flash. I think you're really going to like that. The rogues in there look really cool. And Absolute Green Lantern is going to be a wild swing, a wild take, but I'm very excited about that as well. We're getting like the whole Green Lantern cast also in there. It's the first like true ensemble book in this Absolute lineup. And then obviously we already mentioned the Absolute Martian Manhunter,
yeah.
which that is a wicked swing. So, should you pick this issue up, everybody? Yes. And you
Of
haven't.
course.
What are you doing? Like this is these books so far, we're nailing them. Between
Yeah,
this and the Ultimate books, we are just thriving in these like mini verses right now.
yeah. Quick one on the Absolute Green Lantern. Uh, did they announce who's going to be the main Green Lantern or the front and center?
They said that Hal, Guy, uh, John Stewart will all be in it.
Okay,
So
cool.
we don't have a name yet, which is fun. So,
I respect it.
Absolute Wonder Woman, highly recommend. And of course, go check out our interview with Kelly. From one miniverse to another, Ultimate Spooderman. Ultimate Spider-Man number 10. This came out last week. I know we're catching up some books from last week. That's because we didn't have a full episode and I was too busy yapping about Nightwing 118. Ultimate Spider-Man number 10 continues to just be a phenomenal Spider-Man book. And what I love about these miniverse books is that they take the familiar and they put it with a little twist and there's like little nods and stuff to things that you're like, oh, that's how we're doing this here. Oh, that's how this character is playing an aspect here. What's so cool about this issue in particular is that this is not a Spider-Man issue. This is a J. Jonah Jameson and Uncle Ben writing the paper issue. This is a journalism issue right here. We're digging deep to try and find out who's really behind the stuff behind Oscorp, the stuff behind the Stark Stain Tech Company, and all this stuff. And you really get to see how good of a journalist J. Jonah Jameson truly is, at least in this universe. He gets down to the gritty. Him and Uncle Ben, they know what they're doing. It's really good, guys. It's really good. And we get a name drop, which is a lovely little, like, it's a cameo, but like a nice little name drop. It's like, oh, that's how we're doing this in here. That's so fun. We've already seen how we were kind of doing like the Venom aspect into this. We already saw some other things on how we're doing like this angle into things. And now we get to see how we're doing a certain name that comes up, not in the traditional sense with how this character works at all by any means, but a fun little nod. AF, I cannot wait for you to catch up on this trade because so far Ultimate Spider-Man continues to be one of the best books at Marvel right now.
Is the person that you're speaking about somebody from Spider-Man lore or just Marvel lore in general?
No, it's straight up Spider-Man lore. It is straight up
Okay.
Spider-Man lore. And it's cool. It's a fun little nod because they're like leading up to this. And then the last page, and I'm glad this wasn't spoiled for me. I got to the last page, I'm like, that's so cool. That's so fun. That's so fun.
Okay.
I'm glad that we got to that. Glad that we got to next issue though. We get our Ultimate Black Cat. So very excited about that. Now the reason we didn't have a full episode last week, and I only talked about one book, is because it was Nightwing 118. It was the end of Tom Taylor's run on Nightwing. And it's a run that I have truly attached myself to. I loved it. That run has meant so much to me. It brought out a side of Dick Grayson that I've always really wanted to see embraced in full, which is that I've always said, and we've talked about this when we did the reading club for the first volume, how Dick is truly the embodiment of both Batman and Superman, of Bruce and Clark. He is the product of both of them. And you really saw that in the Tom Taylor run. More the Superman side, more the Clark Kent side, more that like want to do good side. We're into a new era, ladies and gentlemen. We are all in. This is the start of a brand new run from Dan Waters, Dexter Soy, and may I say this, as someone who really loved that run from Tom Taylor, this is a great first issue. This is a really good first issue. It's a significantly different tone. It's supposed to be. I want this to be different, right? When you bring on a brand new creative team to tell a brand new story arc, you don't want it to be the same as before. You want them to have a little bit of a different take, a little bit of a more of an edge. We saw more of that Superman side, more of that Clark side of Dick in the Tom Taylor run. We're getting a little bit more of the Batman side in this one. We're seeing a little bit more of like a Dick who's just kind of like, okay, if I let things get out of control in my city right now, it'll all be on me. I can't let things get out of control. I have to put my foot down somewhere. But also, he still has the conscious of mind to make sure that he's still helping people and he's still helping his city. Art in here is fantastic. Really good. Dig the art so far. Dig the story that's being told. And I really respect Dan Waters for how he's approaching this. He's making sure, and I spoke to him at New York Comic Con. I just want to say, hey, I'm really excited for your run. And I also wanted to make sure, by the way, that a certain character in this run is okay. Can confirm a certain character is okay if you read Nightwing 118, even though we had a last page kind of like, I think so. Can confirm they're okay. So we're good.
It's easy.
Rest easy, everybody. Rest easy to my brain. I was too worried about a fictional character for way too long last week. I'm excited for this. I think this is gonna be fun. I think people who may not have like enjoyed Tom Taylor's run will really enjoy this because this feels this feels like Seeley's run. This feels like the 90s Nightwing run. It's a little grittier, and he hasn't been this quippy in a while.
Yeah. And also the thing about the DC relaunching or rebooting in a way, like with this all-in run, people can jump in right now with all these titles, with the Flash, Green Arrow, Green Lantern. You can just jump in first issue of All In,
Yeah.
and you should be good.
That's the whole point of these, honestly,
Yeah.
is even if it's the same creative team, they're telling a whole
Yeah.
new arc at that point.
Yeah.
Same thing with Poison Ivy that dropped recently as well. That's been going on for 20 issues now, at least. Maybe a little less, but that's been going on for a while now. And you could pick up that issue and it starts a brand new arc. So that's starting from here in October, guys. DC, get all in on it. Jump in, pick up a book because you're going to be like just jumping into a brand new story. This is the time to do it. And that includes Green
Yeah.
Lantern, starting with Civil Corpse.
Yeah. So just going all in on it, my bank account is probably going to hurt a lot because I think I have about 7 all in books on my pull list, and it's probably going to just increase. The numbers going to increase with Superman, Absolute Wonder Woman, Absolute Batman. But yeah, this book was quite cool. It picked up where we left off in Absolute Power from the point of view of the Green Lantern. And it's not just from Absolute Power, it's all the entire storyline from the Green Lantern series by Jeremy Adams, and then the Green Lantern War Journal from Philip K. Johnson as well. So it takes all of those stories and you pick up all the pieces from that. There's a lot of big swings that this creative team does in it. Lord General Taros that they were all going up against at one point in the towards the end of the Absolute Power tie-ins. All of that comes to a seeming end. I don't know, like you think it's done, but then you head over to the next issue, and that I'll talk about in a bit, and you will find out that the dude is still alive, and he's probably has 9 lives. I don't know, but he was being reborn in this issue, and yeah, it's just it's there's so many big swings that they've taken here, and I'm gonna say this because I'm a Star Wars fan. This book is Green Lantern for Star Wars fans. It's so good. It is jam packed with action. There is humor. There is heartfelt dialogue. The art is great. And I spoke to Jeremy Adams about it at Comic Con last week as well. And he said, Zamonico, he's just such a great artist that when you put something in front of him, then he automatically knows how to pull that story together. So the script from Jeremy Adams is great. The art from Zamonico is great. Romelo Fajardo Jr. I mean, it's amazing creative team, and I cannot wait to see where the story goes because I think that they've started off with a bang over here.
Now, I'm not much of a Green Lantern reader at all. I made that very public. I think we've discussed this.
Yeah.
If I'm to jump in to any of the Green Lantern, should I read the Corpse issue first, or can I jump into this 16 and I'm good from here?
So, because I think the Corpse issue is just the one off, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, it's a one shot.
So, yeah, you can just read that one, and then you should be good for continuing the story.
Okay, cool. So there you go. If you're trying to get into Green Lantern, read the Green Lantern Corpse. It came out a few weeks ago here in the States, and then Green Lantern number 16, and you are off and running.
And
Paranoid.
just a quick shout out: the fact that I was in America, I got to visit Midtown Comics, and that's where I bought these issues because both of these aren't in South Africa yet.
Paranoid Gardens, number 4. Number 4 from Gerard Way, from Sean Simon, from Chris Weston on art. I've been digging this series, man. It's not just because Gerard Way is on it. I'll say that. It's not just because Gerard Way's on it. Because Gerard Way's on it definitely helps. It's why I picked it up in the first place. But this is cool. This is just like every issue is just like I'm getting more invested into the story that they're telling. I'm trying to figure out still like what's going on because Chris Weston even explained it when we interviewed him. He said there's very much like prisoner vibes, if you ever seen that. And you're trying to almost figure out, you think that the patients in this facility are like the prisoners, but it's your main character who's kind of like getting everything around with her. It's a fascinating story. It's a trippy story. It's a weird story. And in this issue, they took it to a place I wasn't expecting them to take it to. It gets pretty dark. It gets pretty dark. However, it's still excellent. And not even however, I think making it that dark and having like that big wow moment in here elevates the book to a third, fourth, fifth degree. Chris Weston's art in here also, by the way, fantastic. If you're looking for that Vertigo comics type of look, and by the way, I was going to mention this off the top, Vertigo is back at DC officially. Vertigo titles are back. I think the first one that they officially announced it with was Nice House by the Sea, which is the continuation of Nice House by the Lake. So Vertigo's back, and this, if you're looking for some more Vertigo vibes, look no further than, ironically enough, at Dark Horse with Paranoid Gardens.
Is there? So you mentioned like how dark it gets. Is that in terms of like what type of darkness are we talking about here? Are we talking about gaudy things? Are we talking about self-harm? Are we talking about
We're talking about like societies, specifically American society, just like things that happen way too often.
Okay.
So
I
a lot of
like
violence,
yeah.
but that's just more of like the big twist behind it all.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow.
I like that because I feel like it allows the reader or the writer basically finds a way to make the reader aware or self-aware of their surroundings, so that people don't live in ignorance. Just like be aware of what is happening around you.
Yeah, and it's not even so much an ignorance for me, it's more of like that looming anxiety, that
Yeah.
paranoia, as this is called, Paranoid Gardens. It's like that paranoia inside of you, that anxiety inside of you. So I wasn't expecting this book to take it there, but in a way, I'm glad it did because more stories to be told about that from a traumatizing point of view,
Yeah.
the better. Hello, Darkness, number 4 from Boom Studios. I'm not going to go through every single story in this because we just do not have time, but I will shout out 2 stories in particular. First one is all about, funny enough, that voice inside your head being overworked, and then that voice inside you being like, come on, suck it up, just do it, just do it, just do the work. And you go out on a retreat and that voice just gets louder and louder and louder. So it's like that mental anxiety, that mental horror of you pushing yourself too far. The other one, which is the story from Garth Ennis and Becky Cloonan, the duo on this, which has been called The War, which is a different type of horror. It's a type of horror that has nothing to do with monsters or scary, spooky things. It's a type of horror that is literally just happening. It
Yeah.
is happening, or in this case, could happen. What would happen if all of a sudden literally all hats were off and we were just in World War III? What would happen to all of us, our
Yeah.
interpersonal lives? That is horror to an oomph degree because you're like not thinking about the vampires, the monsters. You're thinking about your interpersonal relationships, your interpersonal lives, your daily life just getting blown to bits.
Yeah.
This story, I didn't love how the last issue ended, and because I think it was more because I thought it was going to be like, oh, this is going to be how it ended, but it's not, because sometimes when the bomb drops, people are still breathing, and that's where it's continuing, and it's like, wow, I didn't think we'd go there. Garth Ennis is very good at telling really traumatizing war stories, and he shines here.
Yeah. Yeah, I know, and I completely agree with that. I haven't read this one, but just like from that first issue of Hello Darkness, that was the one that I did read, and it's everything that you just said. Now it's about what could happen, and it's very much a reality. Like with everything currently happening in the world, it's very much a reality. So yeah, the fact that again, it's like I said, for Paranoid Gardens, like the message comes across to the reader just to be a bit more self-aware of what's happening around you, and anything can happen right outside your front door.
And that's exactly what the story in here is supposed to tell. Also, I just want to shout out Robert Hack's like single page like comic strips in here. Continue to be like one of my favorite things because they're both a ridiculous and hilarious but twisted. There's a I don't even want to spoil it. The first one in here, I cackled because it was just so ridiculous. I don't know how I even like thought of something like that. It was hilarious. Genuinely, genuinely hilarious. All right, Vicarious. I read this one. This is from Ryan Parrott, Eliana Carlini. This is an interesting first issue. This is like, what if, because you haven't read this, AF, so let me pitch this to you. What if there was a way where you can get an implant, right? And in that implant is a network. And people, other people, can connect to your implant, connect to your network, and feel the sensations that you are feeling, see the things that you are seeing, almost like an avatar, but you are still in control of your own body. And it's more of a way for other people to literally live, quote unquote, the life they want. Now, obviously, when that's in play, when you're feeling the sensations and you're seeing the things are going to go a little dark and twisty. You know, people are going to use this maybe not for the intended use of it, and it becomes more of like an underground thing. But then there's a secondary element in here as well that I will not spoil because we're trying to get like the truth behind this character right here, Mr. Bright. It's interesting. I went into this issue completely blind. I knew nothing about it, and I came away just being like, "Oh, that's an interesting story. That's a weird little cyberpunk type of idea, and I kind of dig it."
I'm I'm super curious with everything that you've just said. Like, I'm trying to think about how that would work. Obviously, it's a comic book, so like you can't really give too much logical thinking behind it. But don't mention this idea to a certain owner of a social media app, because knowing that person, they would probably try to invent something. But yeah, I'm curious about this. Also, is this Joe Jonas?
It's getting vibes. The dark hair, the stubble. You know, you get
Yeah,
some vibes of that.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, I'm
Uh,
curious about this. This sounds like an interesting concept, something that I don't think's been done before. Yeah,
I've seen a book that's sort of like this, but you're not. It was more like an avatar into a cybernetic world, and not so much like you're actually experiencing what someone else is
yeah,
doing willingly. Like they're talking to you, and you're almost telling them what to do, but they still have like the decisions on if they want to do that or not. So if you're running and you're jumping from building to building, the person on the other end feels that and is
yeah.
safe to do that. But that individual doing the jumping is clearly risking their own
Mm,
life. Like,
yeah.
what if, from a base standpoint of view, what if you wanted to climb Mount Everest, but you're like, "Ugh, I don't want to risk that, but I'd like to experience that.
Yeah.
Theoretically, in this world, someone could go climb Mount Everest and you could like link with them neurologically and experience that.
Okay. What if I want to attend San Diego Comic Con and I don't want to fly halfway across the world?
The same thing.
Link with somebody over there.
Link with someone, then
Interesting
hopefully you
concept.
have that connection with them that you're both
Yeah.
like, "Hey, let's go do this," and you both say yes type of thing, so you have, like, that back and forth aspect as well.
Hmm.
Very interesting idea, fascinated to see where it goes from here. I forgot to put a book in here. I apologize. So, I'm going to just minimize this real quick, and we're gonna talk about it. Just you and me, mano a mano, with no image here, because I apologize.
Yeah.
Profane, number 5. Profane, number
Yes.
5. This is the finale of Profane. This is a book we've been enjoying, and we've been dissecting and trying to figure out what's been going on here. And what has been going on? We have a fictional character who came over to the nonfiction world, the real world. You've been trying to figure out what's going on. We all theorized. It was like, oh, what if this is like actually because there's a super fan aspect here? What if he's really in the fan fiction? And then there's this other writer who is doing really good and the super fan really likes them. We're like, oh, what's going on here? AF, in the end, our theories did not come about.
No.
Did this ending satisfy you?
I expected a bit more. I expected a bigger swing. It felt a bit anticlimactic. This is from my point of view, my opinion. But we spoke about this before, and yeah, it was okay. It wasn't anything special. It was something that I could have foreseen somewhere after the third issue. But I think I did have that thought initially. But I just thought because of the way that went that they would take a bit of a bigger swing in terms of revealing who the actual killer is.
Yeah, I think in the end, I think I enjoyed this more than you did. And I think it's because I went into this series like we all did, and it was just like, man, I don't know what to expect out of this series, honestly.
Yeah.
And we theorize, and I don't get too attached to my theories. I try not to. I think we all try not to, because if they don't play about, then you get upset that you're wrong. So I try
Yeah.
not to think about it this way. I think it is another interesting commentary on like toxicity in fandoms.
Yeah.
Right. Which I wasn't personally expecting. And both our theories, which was like the whole the fan fiction thing, was leaning that direction, but it just went more direct than a bigger twist than we were expecting by the end. I still think this is a pretty solid read. And I
Yeah.
enjoy like the back and forth and this character realizing that he's not a real person, but he's in the real
Yeah.
world and trying to figure out like what would I do if I wasn't living up to my tropes. Oh, but I'm still not a real character. I'm not a real person, so I'm still living up to my tropes. I'm still doing all the things I would be doing. He's like mad at himself about it. I enjoyed this series.
Yeah. I think also you see how Profane has grown in the 5 issues, because at the end of it all, he chooses to go back um to his world, like willingly, like he wants to do it out of his own, because he knows that if he doesn't, then um it's just not going to be for the best. So yeah, like I feel like a Profane, like earlier in the series, he probably wouldn't have done that. He would have probably just like stayed back and what was the girl's name? I can't remember.
The
But yeah,
singer.
you would have probably,
Yes.
yeah, he would have just probably just like settled down with her, put that before anything else, and then yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, there was some good growth from Will Profane,
There
for
was
sure.
some good growth, some good character growth indeed. But it was solid. I enjoyed the book. I think it will be very solid in trade format. And now back to this. What
Yeah,
are we looking out for next week? Here's what I'm looking out for next week. Action Comics 1073. I've been really enjoying this weekly run from Action Comics from Mark Waid. It's been great. It's been there's a backup going on with Supergirl as well. She's on a secret mission trying to transport secret, some sort of suspect or prisoner actually across the galaxy. And that's like her whole job. And then right now, Superman is actually in the process of trying to figure out what's going on in the Phantom Zone because there's stuff going on there. And we are seeing some characters in classic Mark Waid fashion. We're seeing some characters being brought back from decades ago, from eons ago, and be like, what are they up to since they've been in the Phantom Zone? Type of thing. Because the Phantom Zone is starting to get a little more physical. It's not supposed to be physical. And how did that happen? So, really been enjoying action. Lilith #2 is out next week. Spoke to Corin Howell in person. We had an interview with here. We had an interview with her here on the channel. So go check that out. All about Lilith. Go buy these books because I really want a second volume of this run. It's been a lot of fun. Nice House by the Sea. We mentioned Vertigo Comics is back, and it is under the DC brand, obviously. Nice House by the Sea is under that titleage. And Ultimate X-Men #8, the Ultimate books. I'm all caught up on all the Ultimate books, by the way. All of them.
Oh, wow.
Black Panther, all of them. I did it. I'm caught up. Black Panther, by the way, is really cool. Really cool. I'm finally caught up on that. That whole like the first issue getting delayed or like the issues going missing and stuff really screwed with me. But I'm all caught up. And Ultimate X-Men is back next week. So we will be talking about that. AF, what are you looking forward to?
Yeah, so the books that release this week, I'll probably get either next week or the week after. Hopefully, there's a nice big shipment that comes in that that gives me all the books that I want. But yeah, Green Arrow 17, Superman 19, and then the Green Arrow annual, I think, releases next week as well. So yeah, looking forward to all of that. New creative teams on the Green Arrow books. I think Josh Williamson is on for 1 or 2 more issues, and then he goes off. Sean Isaacs, he's done with his issue 16, I think, was his last issue that he was working the art. And then I think Amansa Neopen, he's going to be the new artist moving forward. But yeah, I'm excited for it. New ways of storytelling, and I'm always good for that. Yeah.
We are all in on DC's All In initiative, whether it is the main continuity or the absolute titles. Buddy, it was so nice seeing you in person. Just a week ago, we were at New York Comic Con. Isn't it crazy?
It's so crazy. Just a week ago, you were chilling in the airport waiting for me.
Yes, I
After
was.
my flight
And
got delayed
Joe
for
Hendry
5.
freaking walked right by me. I was like, is that Joe Hendry? And then like
You
while we're
should
at
have
New York
just
Comic Con, there he is, Joe Hendry. I'm like, oh my god, it absolutely was him, and he was just flying in. Oh, I should have said hi.
well, you should have just shouted, "I believe," and he would have turned around.
He had his giant
100%.
headphones on, so maybe he was like zoned out. So anyway, man, it was so good seeing you, and we'll be back again for another episode next week. As always, go read some comics, go support your local comic shops. Until next time.